Started since we have a quorum now.
You're live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the a regular meeting of the Energy and Environmental Sustainability Commission in the city of Milpitas. And today's date is September 15th, 2021. And I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and have the roll call, if you could, Elaine.
Sure thing. Let's start with, 1 second, please. All right, Commissioner Badesha. Don't see him on yet. Vice Chair Kong.
I'm here.
Commissioner Lingle.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez was not able to join us today. Commissioner Salian, any chance he joined yet? No. Okay. Oops. Chair Sexton.
Here.
Commissioner Shreve, I don't see him yet either. I'm sorry. Alternate Commissioner Admana, I don't see him. And alternate Commissioner Hogg.
Present.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 commissioners present and we have a quorum. So let's go ahead and seat alternate Commissioner Hogg to make the quorum of 4. Thank you for joining us, Commissioner Hogg. Let's go ahead and move on to the approval of today's agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as distributed last week for this meeting of the EESC for September 15th?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Do
second.
I hear a second? Sorry, was that Commissioner Lingle?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Lingle. And could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Vice Chair Kong, your vote, please.
Aye.
Commissioner Lingle,
Aye.
Chair Sexton,
Aye.
and Commissioner Hogg.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Then the next item is to approve the minutes of our last meeting of September 1st. That was a special meeting that we received the minutes of last week also. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the September 1st meeting of the commission?
Chair Sexton, can I request for a correction?
Oh, yes.
Page 3 under AB 1200.
Yes.
Just for clarity, second paragraph, I believe it was myself who commented that the other states have passed similar bills. So just a correction on
Okay.
item.
Thank you for that clarification. Linda, would we be able to make that adjustment to the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So do I hear a motion with the change of the ownership for making the comment as to which states have approved that type of bill? It was Vice Chair Kong and not myself who made that comment. Otherwise, the minutes as stated, do I hear a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hogg. Commissioner Salian, I see that you've joined us. Hello there.
Hi, sorry
Okay.
I'm late.
Yes, I'm glad that you could join us. Elaine, could we have a roll call vote of the for the approval of last meeting's minutes?
Yes. Vice Chair Kong, your vote, please.
Aye.
Commissioner Lingle.
I abstain. I was not able to make it.
Okay. Commissioner Salian,
Aye,
Chair Sexton,
Aye.
and Commissioner Hogg.
Aye.
Great, motion passes. Thanks very much. We're on to public forum. Is there anyone joined us for the public forum that would like to speak?
Chair Sexton, we do have Mr. Mehta, so I will allow him to talk.
All right, Mr. Mehta.
Thank you very much to all the chair, vice chair, as well as all the respective commissioners of the city of Milpitas, and as well as for the Energy and Environmental Sustainability Commission. I wanted to emphasize on where the Energy and Environmental Sustainability Commission would provide more insight to the city of Milpitas on some of the existing issues that has been ongoing. First is the SB 350 bill that was brought up in the last meeting, and with the consumer rates on going up rates with the consumers, specifically with the solar energy, as a part of the SB 350 bill implementation with the PG&E outages that's been happening all over the California. With respect to that, the California Public Utility Commission has been informed multiple occasions about the ongoing situation, as well as work it out on a plan where different cities, Energy and Environmental Sustainability Commission directly works with the California Public Utility Commission as well as PG&E to address the rates that is required to be adjusted, and as well as the consumer not to be impacted by the rates that has been increased. As well as it is equally important for Energy and Environmental Sustainability Commission to involve at the level with the water conservation as well, with the Santa Clara Valley Water Authority, as well as the San Francisco Water Authority, where most of the prices are being managed. However, there is a task plan now in place with the city of Milpitas, where the water conservation plan is in place. However, the commission must consider to review that plan before the rate increases within the city of Milpitas, as there are multiple general plans for the update that's been ongoing. Other than that, along with the sustainable development goals of the UNICEF as well as with the UNESCO, the commission must consider to review that, how the energy goals can be satiated by implementation of different solar energy programs within the city. Also, as a part of environmental sustainability, to consider to curb the effects of 5G radiations within the city as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. You've brought up your comment is on several items, and I believe over time we do touch on some of those, but thank you very much for your comments. I do want to say that a month ago, when you brought up the SB 350 item, we did find out that that was passed by the California legislature last year, and I believe is in place. So when we discuss and put together our work plan for next year for 2022, we can certainly look at maybe digging into some more items, but for 2021, we're working according to the commission work plan as approved by the city council. So thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Rishma.
Linda, do we have any other public comments?
No.
Okay, great. We are on to item number 8 now, announcements. Do we have any announcements to share? I'll go ahead and reiterate the announcement that we discussed last meeting, and that is this coming Saturday, September 18th, is the Coastal Cleanup Day, and I believe that the city of Milpitas has been offering litter pickup kits and encouraging everyone. I've certainly seen lots of social media posts from the city encouraging Milpitas residents to join in on the litter pickup and cleaning for the whatever neighborhood that you live in. So I hopefully lots of people will be joining in on Saturday. Any other announcements? Okay, great. Let's move on to our business items. We have one tonight, and that is SB 1383. Elaine, will you be covering that?
Good evening, commissioners. Elaine Marshall, Deputy Public Works Director. Actually, I'm going to be introducing Mivan Kusiman, our Senior Admin Analyst or Solid Waste Program Manager, and Alan Ha on our solid waste team. He's our admin analyst that also works with me then on solid waste issues. They are our dynamic duo. They've been busy working on all kinds of programs related to solid waste, recycling, and litter here at the city. I believe they were here with the commission last year, probably middle of last year. We've had quite a bit of turnover on the commission, some new commissioners joining, and a new council liaison. So we thought it was a good time to come back to the commission to provide an update on SB 1383 implementation and preparations for that. The effective date for that starts January 1, 2022. So we're a few months away. There's still a lot to figure out with these new regulations, but there's been a lot of work that's gone into it, and you'll be hearing a lot more about it both tonight and in the next few months. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mivan and to Alan.
Great. Thank you very much, Mivan and Alan, for coming tonight and giving us an update.
All right, should I go ahead and share my screen to get the presentation?
Please.
All right, now let's have some fun.
Thank you for having us. Good evening, everyone. We appreciate the opportunity to share everything that we've been doing since we've been here last to talk about SB 1383.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Wonderful. Okay, presentation view.
Perfect.
Here we go.
Thank you. So just a quick bit of housekeeping. We'll be going over a lot of different pieces. The legislation itself is big, and there's a lot of different pieces to it. So if we're going over a slide and you have questions, go ahead and ask the question and we'll talk about it in that slide, since later on towards the end, it'll just be jumping around to all the different areas and different slides. So feel free to just let us know if you have a question. So just to take a step back from everything, Senate Bill 1383, this is the update to this massive legislation that has been coming down the pipeline for the last couple of years now. It's actually the most significant, probably, waste reduction legislation that's happened in the last 30 years now in California. It's pretty big. We'll go over kind of the biggest pieces of it, the main points of it, and then we'll get down a little bit into kind of the different areas as well. But basically, you know, the two main points are that it establishes a goal to reduce organic waste disposal by 75% by 2025. And it also requires the state to increase edible food recovery by 20% by 2025. Next slide, please. So the roadmap for this presentation is we'll go over the background and context of SB 1383. We'll talk about the different requirements and as well as the key dates. We'll discuss the responsibilities of different jurisdictions and what it requires local governments, specifically how it impacts Milpitas. We'll talk about the status here in Milpitas, what we've been doing, what's going on, and kind of what the future will look like. We'll also discuss key jurisdiction dates, capacity and infrastructure for organic waste, as well as CalRecycle's oversight responsibilities. Next slide, please.
All right. So before we launch into 1383, SB 1383 itself, especially with new commissioners coming on board, we thought that this is a good time to actually understand how we got here, because in order to fully understand SB 1383, you have to look at legislation and its history regarding solid waste over time. AB 939 is typically seen as the granddaddy legislation, and that set California on its path. And the major thing that it did was that it set up the California Integrated Waste Management Board, which is the precursor to CalRecycle, the state agency that oversees solid waste and zero waste legislation implementation, and then the end enforcement. And it also set the goal for 50% of diversion of waste from landfills by January 1st, 2000. And you move forward in time, you get to AB 341, which is the mandatory commercial recycling legislation, and it required businesses to subscribe to recycling collection services if a certain threshold of waste generation was met. And not going to get too much into the weeds. So moving ahead, we get to AB 1826, which is generally considered as the precursor to SB 1383. And this required commercial businesses to subscribe to collection of organic waste. And that kind of led us over here. All of these major pieces of legislation, as well as a lot more smaller pieces, set the foundation for SB 1383. It is also important to note that this is even more important now, especially with the way that the global recycling marketplace has changed and is still changing due to the global policies such as China's green fence and national soil policy. Separation, the way that we see it, separation of material correctly into multiple categories is effectively the new normal, especially if zero waste is the goal. And Nivan will speak a little bit more about the importance and focus of organic waste in the next slide.
Yes, so going into the background and the context of SB 1383. So why did California pass this law? Well, the SB 1383 specifically deals with green waste, wood waste, food waste, and fiber, such as paper and cardboard. It's all organic waste. So if you look here at the pie chart, you'll see here that organic waste is 2/3 of the waste stream. So you could see other organics, non-organic waste is just 1/3, 33%, and then all the other green areas, that's the 2/3 there. According to CalRecycle, they did a waste characterization study in 2014. And when they did that, they saw that food waste alone accounted for 18%. So that's the green you see on the left-hand side. 18% is just going into the landfill, that's food. So that's a part of the reason why SB 1383 deals with edible food recovery, because a portion of that 18% would be edible food, and it could go towards towards the food insecure in California. As you can see on the right, the stats are that 1 in 8 Californians and 1 in 5 children are food insecure. So that's more than 6 million tons of food waste that every year that could be captured and kind of sent to other streams and used. And it's fine to use basically and recover. So next slide, please. So the bill itself is called the Short-Lived Climate Pollutants in California. So besides food waste and recovery, climate change and the climate is the environmental component is the largest piece of SB 1383. The reason is because when organic waste goes to the landfill, it undergoes anaerobic digestion, and that creates methane gas, which is a super pollutant, and it's more powerful than CO2. So, as you can see here in the slide, there's different ways that it's impacting the environment, from rising sea levels to reduced snowpack to wildfires to drought to heat waves. Actually, all of which, unfortunately, we've been getting more and more used to here in California. Next slide, please.
So here are some major deadlines for SB 1383. But first, I want to preface this by saying that SB 1383 has been in the works since 2016. It's just that the regulatory language was only finalized pretty recently. I believe it was finalized late 2019, which doesn't really give jurisdictions a whole lot of time. But the language of SB 1383 is that by 2020, CalRecycle set a goal of reducing organic waste going into the landfill by 50%. I believe the report that came out says that we didn't meet that target at the state as a whole, not individual jurisdictions. I want to really emphasize that. But in addition, and then the SB 1383 sets that in 2022, which is only a few months away, the regulations, the regulatory language and the regulation itself goes into effect, and we are required to begin an implementation, and then for SB 1383. The further go down the line on 2025 is to reach a 75% reduction in landfill organic waste. And I should highlight that this is 75% and reduction, and then and from the numbers that they captured in 2014. And as well as what Mivan mentioned earlier, and 20% and increases in recovery of currently disposed of edible foods. So what exactly does this require us to do? I always chuckle when the question comes up, because the piece of legislation requires all jurisdictions, including Milpitas, to do many things. Some of these things will be done solely on an individual jurisdiction level, meaning city by city, but there are other pieces will be conducted in partnership with other public and private agencies. I'm not going to jump too much into the weeds on this slide, but you can see that these are kind of the main broad strokes of what the piece of legislation requires us to do. And we'll be getting into the details further into the presentation. And so I know that this graphic has a lot going on. And what I really want everyone to get from this particular slide is that SB 1383 is not something that is handled solely by a jurisdiction solid waste staff or zero waste staff. Due to the way that the legislation is written and the requirements of it, it requires a lot of coordination between and amongst different city departments, and to ensure that everything in SB 1383 is attended to. And Mivan will actually speak in greater detail about the collaborative efforts that we've been undertaking in the next slide.
Yes, so since we have been here last year, we've been having a lot of discussions about SB 1383 and a lot of different forums at a lot of different tables. So the coordination is really for both internal and external. We've been having ongoing meetings with Milpitas Sanitation or hauler. They're very aware of SB 1383. We've been talking with them. We have regular monthly meetings with them. And so we constantly mention SB 1383 as well as specific meetings dedicated to SB 1383. We also have ongoing regional discussions with Santa Clara County Recycling and Waste Reduction Commission's Technical Advisory Commission, the TAC. Also there we've had, I'd say monthly, it's currently a standing item on the agenda. And besides that, we've had specific meetings for SB 1383 as well, to talk as a region about how we're handling it, both together and individually, to share information and to share just what's been going on and what we're planning to do. And also for the edible food recovery piece of that, we've been in participation with regional subcommittees to discuss edible food. There's also a regional kind of coordination going on right now with a joint venture Silicon Valley, and they've been organizing us and kind of corralling us all together to discuss the edible food piece of the legislation. Internally, we've also been meeting with many different divisions and departments, including land development, planning, building safety and housing, public works, purchasing, economic development, the city attorney's office, and then we presented here and to city council upcoming. It really, like Alan said, it's a heavy lift, and everyone kind of it is a piece of it. Everyone's a different part of what needs to happen. So we've been trying to kind of make everyone aware that this is coming, and hey, there's this piece of it, we should consider this, and just having discussions about what it is that we need to prepare for and think about as we move forward. Next slide.
Oh, hold on, Ananta, it seems to have froze on me. Give me a moment. There we go.
So one of the main pieces of SB 1383 is to provide organics collection service to all residents and businesses. So the good news is that here in Milpitas, because we have the split carts for the single family residents, we're already SB 1383 compliant that way. So really here, what it would mean is, we would focus on multifamily residences and businesses. Because really the law affects everybody, every resident who's everywhere in California, actually, not just Milpitas, to start collecting the food scraps. And so, yes, so that's the major piece of it. And fortunately, the split cards do make us compliant for the single family residents here in Milpitas. Next slide.
All right. So speaking of edible food recovery program, as Mivan stated earlier, CalRecycle has identified that a lot of food waste is going into the landfill that is still edible. So SB 1383 requires that we strengthen our existing infrastructure for edible food recovery and distribution. And what I really want everyone to take away from this slide, because I do know that there's a lot going on it, is that in Santa Clara County, we're working as a region in partnership with joint venture Silicon Valley to tackle this, because we recognize that food recovery, it crosses boundaries and affects all of us. So having a consistent and coordinated system for our entire region would be the most effective and efficient method. And because, for example, the Second Harvest Food Bank, and it's not that they just work in one particular city, they work with all of the cities. So it would make sense that we work together as a regional effort rather than an individual silos. Of course, education and outreach is a must. We can have the best program in the world, but if no one knows about it or how they can participate, then of course it's bound to fail. baked into SB 1383 are education requirements, what we have to do. And one of the things that we're taking really seriously to make sure that the word is getting out there is ensuring that all education material is linguistically accessible for all of our non-English speakers here in Milpitas. So this pretty much means Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese is a translation for all outreach material, including English.
Alan and Megan, can we take a pause
Yes.
here? I think we've covered quite a bit, and I wanted to give the commission an opportunity to ask any questions at this point. And if there aren't any, and you guys are all good
Oh,
and
no.
understand
Oh.
everything, we can move forward.
Have a
I've got
que-
it. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Saley.
Okay, you talking to me?
Nope, after you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, the question is upon this methane gas. Okay, we said that there's a whole lot of methane gas coming and we burn it out. Instead of burning it out in the atmosphere, why don't we supply to the households and give them a break in the electric cooking and whatever cooking they do? So we could use that methane gas for cooking purposes or for water heaters and everything. Is that
Do you want me to take this one or do you want it?
It's up to you. Well, let me just, you can jump in. I was just going to say quickly that this bill, it's more looking at just reducing the methane gas in general. So just reducing it as much as they can with the organic waste. And that's kind of the main goal of this bill, at least.
Yes, but till then, instead of just burning it out in the atmosphere, why don't we give it to the citizens of Milpitas?
So I will also add this part. Also baked into SB 1383. There's a procurement piece that Mivan will cover a little bit further down in the presentation, but one of the things that it's looking at is it's set procurement targeted for all jurisdictions, and it's effectively trying to build the marketplace so that there is an outlet for renewable gas that's captured from landfills to be distributed as a means of energy production or water heating purposes. So there is some aspect of this already put into the regulatory language.
Okay, there's a second question is, regarding telling the public about the picking up the litters and everything. Why don't we target the pastors or the priest or of certain community and tell them this is what we intend doing, so they could have more bigger audience than what we can do individually.
That's a great suggestion, Commissioner Saley, and we'll look into partnerships with our faith-based communities and see if we can use them to also carry our message.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So I had a couple of questions. Let's see, on the slide about the 50% reduction by 2020. Do you have any statistics associated with that, as far as, who actually was able to reach 50% reduction, or?
Not
anything?
off the top of my head, but there is, the Mivan, correct me if I'm wrong, there was kind of a report, but I don't think it was specific. It was more looking at it as a statewide. I guess as a statewide, whether or not we achieved it.
Yes, it is statewide. I don't believe that they break it down into jurisdictions or even areas. It's just California as a whole.
Right. Okay. Let's see. If you could forward that to us, that report, that would be great. Because this, as I understand it, this is basically our baseline. how this process is working today, as at least up to 2020 on diverting out of the landfill. That's kind of like our baseline. So it would be good to know where we are. Just as a state is fine. So yeah, it would be good to see that report. The other question here is reduction, 50% reduction relative to what year?
2014, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's 6 years of trying, and it sounds like we didn't actually reach the 50% mark, right?
I think it took the 2014 numbers, but the SB 1383 didn't really start to become
That's right,
to
2016.
come together until later.
But it is
Yeah, the rules, let's see, the legislation passed in 2019 and CalRecycle promulgated the rules in like mid 2020. So even though they're looking at the 2014 baseline, like real implementation hasn't even started. So yeah, it's sometimes some laws take a long time too.
Okay, all right, good. Let's see.
And just to jump on that, I think that the difference too is that, so Alan talked about the different laws that have led up to SB 1383. And so that this latest report goes, it kind of is a report on how the laws are working. And SB 1383, they've given it more teeth in terms of enforcement and penalties, which the other regulations didn't have. So I think they're hoping that having that teeth will make it more, I guess, effective.
And that was my next question. What is it? What happens if we do not reach 75 or 50% by 2020 or 75% by 2025? What happens?
I can go into that in a little greater detail once we get to those particular slides.
Okay, great. Let's see. One last question. So on the setting up of the infrastructure for all of this. There was a reference to a slide about food recovery services. Are these, I'm assuming I've heard of, these kinds of new companies basically opening up for actually, providing this kind of service. Is that what's happening here? Yeah, on this slide, are there new businesses actually starting up to facilitate 1383?
I would say that it's a piece of it. That it may have been spurred on by SB 1383. That we don't exactly have the definitive answer about how particular companies came about, but that it is one of the considerations of I guess different components that can help us meet the edible food recovery portion of SB 1383.
Okay.
And part of the work to be done, and that's ongoing, is how to connect these companies or these companies and these services with the food, as well as getting them to the people who need them, right? So if you think about, gosh, like the big cafeterias at our businesses that have, basically these great buffets, and then a lot of food that ends up going uneaten. That food is either, if it's packaged, there are some services now that are taking that food, picking it up, and then bringing it out to food insecure neighborhoods. So part of the work to be done is to identify all of these quote unquote generators of edible food that could be consumed, where it is, who has it, and then who can pick it up and who can get it to people who can help distribute it. So there's a whole, like you said, Commissioner Lingle, there's a whole infrastructure to kind of create around this.
Thank you.
And that, and the benefits are the food doesn't get wasted, so you don't have the methane that's generated from the landfill. But there's also, if you think about it, a lot of upstream resources needed to even grow that food and produce it. So we're trying to make sure that we're, preserving and conserving that as much too with this effort.
Commissioner Sexton, Commissioner Kong has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Linda. Commissioner Kong. And by the way, I've been just sort of letting the presenters, take the questions so that I don't have to be taking up extra time. So Mevan and Alan, as you see hands being raised, please call on those commissioners.
I'm not sure if Mr. Lingle is done. Or can I jump in now? Okay, all right. So I have a question regarding the regulation that will take effect in 2022, because I know that one big component of this regulation was going to be fines that can be imposed. Just like AB 939 in the past, they have imposed up to $10,000 a day fines. Do we know the number yet as far as what SB 1383 fines might be for not being compliant?
Yes. So there's two pieces of noncompliance. One is the different quote unquote generators. So, the businesses or multifamilies that aren't collecting. CalRecycle in the regulations themselves in SB 1383, they laid out the amount of fines. So there's a range there for like a first penalty, it's between 50 and I want to say 150. And then it goes up to the next step after that, and then a third step after that. So it is spelled out in there. The second piece of the fines is fines from CalRecycle against the various jurisdictions too, for not basically ensuring compliance or making I guess enforcement ordinance is something that we have to pass, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But for things like that, of doing things to ensure that this regulation will be followed. So there's kind of two different compliances there.
Thank you. I have a second question.
Oh, and sorry, just one more clarification, Vice Chair Kong. The enforcement piece does not take effect until 2024. So we basically have like 2 years to implement and demonstrate good faith effort, and then I believe the penalties kick in or the fines are effective 2024.
All right. The second part of the question is, I know that our city, we're trying to do this audit and learn from what is going on in the community at this point by doing this bin flip checks. Is that complete? Because I know that it was started. Do we have a gauge from that small little?
Both Alan and Mevan were two of the folks who were out checking and flipping lids and looking in people's carts. And so we are compiling that data now and reviewing it. So there was some very interesting information.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, we have a draft that's under review right now. So it's getting very, very close to being able to be shared.
Sounds good. I have a last question. I think when we do the education and outreach, it is very important to let a lot of our local residents know that this is statewide, because I do see a lot of times on social media, many times people feel that the new sorting is just too much work, and they think that this is local decisions that is making it very difficult on them, not realizing that this is actually a state mandate and it's happening everywhere else. And we have a lot of neighboring cities that have gone through the learning process. And I just want to bring up 2 cities that actually changed their service from split cart to mixed waste processing. I think City of San Jose and City of Santa Clara, they did many years of piloting, but then based on feedbacks, they actually decided to pay more to go with a mixed waste processing. So I'm not sure if this is something that we also need to keep in mind, because if people continue to not be compliant, perhaps they are willing to pay more to go to mixed waste. If they're not willing to pay more, and that's where we need to get their cooperation to continue to sort their waste properly, because it does impact the cost of service. So those are my feedbacks.
Okay, Commissioner Hogg, your hand's raised.
Quick question. So we're not allowed to throw away as much stuff as we used to throw away. Is that my understanding of things? We're only allowed to throw smaller and smaller proportions of things away every year, right?
The goal is to reduce waste and reduce the materials landfill. Yep.
So that means my garbage bill should be less and less every year also, right?
Unfortunately, there's also handling and processing of the materials.
It always comes down to that. It always comes down to, no matter what you do, the price keeps going up. Who's going to keep paying for this stuff? I keep, right? It costs everybody money, but nobody wants to foot the bill except me, a Joe taxpayer. We're the ones that do it. I'm kind of up to here with it, but just my 2 cents.
Yep. No, I hear you on that, Commissioner Hogg, and you know, the waste that we generate has to go somewhere, and it costs money to either divert it or landfill it. One of the things that I like to say with reducing the amount of waste or even stuff that you buy, you do save money because you're not buying as much. If you're looking at reducing food waste, it also, you know, saves money. I unfortunately have also looked at how much food I end up throwing away. And so, yeah, trying to be more conscious about only buying what I'm going to consume and eat, and reducing the food that I end up putting in my trash also does help me reduce my grocery budget. So there's ways on both sides to try to reduce the amount of the burden on the community and on individuals.
Well, I'm referring to my garbage bill. That's all. Nothing to do. I'm giving you half the garbage. It should cost me half as much. Am I right?
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Hogg. I would like to sort of clarify the difference between what is considered waste and what is considered diverted to other uses, such as recycling of paper and paper products. That is not considered garbage anymore. And so is food waste is not being considered garbage because we are not putting it into the landfill anymore. There's just lots of things that don't get put under the caption of garbage, but in recycling those items, the recycling part of our costs definitely goes up because those things have to be specially handled in terms of recycling. So in the past few years, since we've had the split bins, my actual what goes to the into the part of the split bin that goes to the landfill, I maybe put that bin out once a month, maybe once every 6 weeks for pickup. I really don't generate much that goes into the landfill. I opted for the smallest garbage can possible. And, you know, even the smallest garbage cart is too big for me because I don't need to put it out for pickup every week. But I do make use of some of the other recycling facilities, as well as, for the first time in I think at least 10 years, I'm actually cleaning out my garage. And I am making use of the 2 bulk bags that actually on Tuesday was delivered, and then I can fill it and it'll be picked up next week. But we get those 2 bulk bags of for bulk waste up to I think every 8 weeks we can request the bulk bags. So there's actually very easy ways of disposing of larger items, such as, you know, my broken bicycle pump and things like that that I've accumulated. that can be put to use, because I believe, Elaine, correct me if I'm wrong, that when the bulk waste bags are picked up, some additional sorting is done to the items in those bags before it doesn't automatically go to the landfill, does it?
Correct. Some of that material is sorted so that what can be diverted and recycled is. Yes, you're correct. So I am going to encourage us to move on into the presentation. So Alan and Evan, take it back.
Okay, and no, this has been great. It gives my voice a chance to rest and also rehydrate.
I see Mr. Commissioner Salien's hand still up. Do you?
Yeah, can you see me now? Hello?
Yes, Commissioner Salient, why don't you go ahead and ask a question?
Yes, I have a question. Would the city of Milpitas be in, would they like to provide the citizens over here with a small device which uses organic food and make it into a mulch? And it can be used for your gardening and all those things. Would they be interested in things like that?
Commissioner Salient, I think if you're talking about converting food waste into a substance that can be used in the garden, there are many ways to do that, including one that doesn't require any energy to be added to it in terms of electricity. So the city promotes composting education. And so in fact, at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, I teach composting classes for the city of Milpitas through the county's composting education program.
No, but this particular device, it is only about 2 feet by 1 feet or something like that, where you just dump in all your organic waste in it, plus some cardboard and all those things. And the next day in the morning, it will be having all turned into a mulch, which could be used for gardening and all those things.
Yes, Commissioner Salient, I've seen ads for those types of products, and I prefer the regular composting method because those machines, first of all, they cost money, and then they cost electricity that you have to pay in order to run those. So the normal composting method is really a very low cost or no cost method of doing the same process.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the presentation. All righty. This actually ties into a lot of what are we doing right now in terms of education outreach, and we're doing a lot, but we're also working on a much more comprehensive outreach plan that we're looking at rolling out around the October timeframe. So let's see. So to just highlight some of the major things, and so we've been diligently working with our hauler, Milpitas Sanitation, MSI, and we've been putting a lot of information into the billing inserts, as well as newsletters such as our sustainability newsletter that go out, and we're also looking at the development of other outreach collateral like flyers that could be distributed to our residents and businesses. As we are also with MSI working on a website so that both residents and businesses have easy access to information, and whether they have the printed material or not. We're going through a lot of different email lists, such as the Constant Contact Milpitas business list, because we fully recognize that the expectations and requirements for our residents will be different from cities. So the information that at the residents and businesses should be getting and should be different and more tailored to what their needs are. And right now we are the solid waste team. We are going in and visiting all of our MFDs, our multifamily complexes, doing walkthroughs and site visits to see to verify service levels that they have, and also look for potential issues that may obstruct the implementation of SB 1383 at those that particular location. And now tier 1 outreach. What exactly does that mean? And the tier 1 refers to a category of edible food waste generators that CalRecycle has identified. There is a tier 1 and a tier 2. I won't get into tier 2 right now because they won't be impacted until 2024, but there will also be outreach that goes to them. The more urgent one coming up is what's the expectations for tier 1 generators. And these are your wholesale food vendors. These are your food service providers. These are your food distributors, and these are your grocery stores. We have already begun engaging with and providing outreach to our tier 1 generators. And we've been providing the outreach in a variety of different methods. It's phone calls, emails, site visits. It's in English, Vietnamese, Chinese. It is as necessary. And the website at the bottom, sccfoodrecovery.org. That's actually a resource that was developed by Joint Venture Silicon Valley in partnership with all the jurisdictions within Santa Clara County as a tool and resource that tier 1 and eventually tier 2 generators could utilize to figure out how they can, what agencies are out there that can accept their food, and how can they get at their edible food donated to agencies that can then connect it and bring it to communities in need.
Commissioner Hogg, you have a question?
Yeah, a quick question for Alan and Myvan. Who do you work for? Do you work for the city of Milpitas, or do you work for like a consulting firm that is hired by the city of Milpitas?
We both work for Milpitas.
You're employees of the city of Milpitas?
Yes, we're in the Public Works Department in the solid waste team for City of Milpitas.
Thank you. Just that satisfies.
And I think Nita, kicking it on over to you.
Yes. So besides organics collections and edible food recovery, which we've talked about, SB 1383 also has procurement requirements for each jurisdiction. So what this means is that CalRecycle, it's based on population, and CalRecycle will notify each jurisdiction of their procurement target based on the population pretty soon, actually, prior to January 1st, 2022. The main goal of these procurement requirements is in the slide, so to close the loop. So the idea is to collect the organics, recycle, recover it, and then procure things that are produced out of, some of these items, for example, compost, mulch, electricity from biomass, renewable natural gas. Those things can be created from collecting organic waste. And then so the law requires that jurisdictions procure these items as well and use them, so that there's this loop that's happening. The other piece of it is that CalRecycle is really looking to create the market for these items as well, for the compost, the mulch, the renewable natural gas, the electricity. So we'll get into that a little more when we talk about what we've been doing with procurement. But yes, so next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, can we go back? I forgot a piece.
Sure.
Okay, sorry. So there's also, besides the procurement of the compost, mulch, renewable natural gas, and electricity, there's paper procurement requirements. And so that requires that every jurisdiction in California has a minimum of 30% recycled content in all of the printing paper, paper products, janitorial paper products, so towels, toilet paper, things like that, and that it's recyclable. Next slide, please. So what does that mean for compost? We did kind of a look into compost. If we were to meet our procurement target from 2019, you can see the population there from 2019, which was the latest figures that we had. It was 84,196. And if we were to meet the compost procurement target just purely by compost, then you can see that up there on top, to meet 100%, SB 1383 requires that the city procures 174,405 compost bags each year. So, I mean, what that really means is that yearly we're looking at 240 cubic yard dumpster bins, those really large bins that, you know, people use to do dumps, or that we had for the neighborhood cleanups, and 3.5 soccer fields filled with 1 foot of compost each year. So it's a lot of compost, more than I think anybody could use. Our joke is that, you know, for Milpitas, if we give 2 bags of compost for every resident, it still won't meet the procurement target that's set out for us. Next slide, please.
As Mivan mentioned earlier, one of the major differences is with SB 1383 compared to previous pieces of legislation, and then is that it has teeth, if meaning it requires enforcement, and it lays out the enforcement expectations. And since I won't get too much into the weeds on this particular slide, effectively, we need to adopt an ordinance that allows us our jurisdiction and to enforce SB 1383. That's spelled out in the regulatory language, and it's one of the things that we have to do. How we go about the enforcement is through a variety of different inspection processes. Between 2022 and 2024, or it's mostly a monitoring and education phase. We will be connecting with businesses as residents, and after we go out and conduct the inspections, and in order to provide the necessary education so that everyone knows how they can participate accurately. But once we get to 2024, the monitoring and education phase is effectively phasing out, and we're going into the enforcement phase. So if people continue to be non-compliant with SB 1383, then they will be issued notices of violation, and penalties will be issued. And actually, that's a little bit further down, so I'll save that little bit for later. What exactly are we looking for? Well, if you're a commercial business and you generate 2 or more cubic yards of a material a week, we need to conduct an assessment or an inspection to verify that you have collection services or you're self-hauling the material. And part of this is what the Cal Recycle is calling route reviews. It's what we internally call lid flips. It's effectively we will be going out to commercial and residential areas to verify for service and also inspect for contamination. And we do have a draft route review procedure already developed. We utilized it in our lid flip methodology earlier this year, and it does follow standardized accepted practices and calculations that's utilized in the environmental consulting field. I only bring that up because in a previous lifetime I was a consultant, and I wrote and developed a lot of these procedures. There's for a variety of different projects. And going back to our tier 1 and tier 2 generators, we will be conducting inspections to verify that they have made the adequate arrangements with a food recovery organization, and this will come into the form of actual written agreements between the food generator and the food recovery organization to show that they are working together. a lot of stuff going on, and it's happening all at once or down the line. Mivan, back to you.
Yes, so we've covered the large pieces of SB 1383 with the collection, the edible food recovery, the procurement. Some of the smaller pieces, so it would be construction and landscaping requirements. It basically requires Cal Green compliance, as well as the model water efficient landscape ordinance, or WELO in our case, because it's not a model anymore. But both of those regulations have been adopted into the Milpitas municipal code under their respective areas already. So for us, it's just going through and making sure that all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, but we're already complying with all of those regulations. Next slide, please. And then the other thing is SB 1383 also requires infrastructure capacity for organics. And this is something that's more kind of on the shoulders of the county. And the main thing here is that the county is leading the effort for organics capacity. They're doing an organics capacity study, and they're in the process of approving a consultant right now to begin that study. Next slide, please. So the other big piece of 1383 is record keeping requirements. So besides all of the requirements that we've gone through so far, we also have to keep a record and documents of everything. So you can see there all the kind of different areas, from organics collection to the program to contamination minimization. So that deals more with education and outreach, notifying people of proper sorting. There's waivers that could be applied for the edible food recovery program, the procurement piece of things, including recycled paper procurement, commercial edible food generators, and then inspection and enforcement. All of those different areas requires for us to document everything, keep notes, and keep an implementation record that can then be kind of shared with CalRecycle if questions arise of what we're doing, or to show, how we're progressing. Next slide, please.
Okay. So we know that that was a lot of information all at once. So to circle back to what helps me center, what exactly are we doing and what's expected of us. So here are once again, and then the key dates for us and what we're trying to do, because the planning process is long, and we're working diligently to make sure that the appropriate programmatic and budgetary decisions are considered well in advance of the deadline. And then once again in 2022, those are kind of the major things that CalRecycle expects jurisdictions to either have implemented or in process of analyzing and implementing. And by 2024, our jurisdictions must take action against non-compliant entities. And Mivan talked about this a little bit earlier and stole my thunder a little bit, which is fine. As was mentioned earlier, it's not just jurisdictions that are evaluating for compliance. And CalRecycle, the state agency, it will be looking at jurisdictions in the same way that we're looking at residents and businesses. And and CalRecycle will be evaluating all the jurisdictions within the state of California to see if they're doing what they need to in order to sure that the SB 1383 is implemented, because just like SB 1383 gives us the ability to impose penalties for non-compliance, and CalRecycle will also issue penalties for jurisdictional non-compliance.
Sorry, I see two hands up. Chair Sexton.
Yes, thank you very much. This is really very good information. I just want to point out that, the purpose of all these legislation that has led up to this SB 1383 is really, it's all common sense things to do in terms of being good stewards for the planet. and for the place that we live in. And if we did this without having to make it into rules and regulations, we wouldn't, we'd be better off, and we wouldn't need all of these sort of complicated procedures, things like that. But the fact is that not everyone has the incentive or the education to sort of be good stewards of the planet. And so, we have to accept the fact that programs like this have to be legislated in order for our environment as a whole to improve, and for us to be able to live in harmony with nature, because there's a lot of things that we do that is not in harmony with nature, and we're trying to get there. And so I respect the fact that all of these procedures are being put into place. At the back of my mind, I always wish that we didn't need these things to be set like this, that we would all, behave ourselves so that we don't cause problems. But given what it is, I think this is a good way to lay out the regulations and to be able to monitor and get better at how we're treating the environment.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kong?
Yeah. Even regarding the problem that you brought up for recycled organic waste procurement requirement, where you already see that our city is not going to be able to consume the amount that we are required to procure. So what are the options available? Is there any feedback loop to the rulemaking body to perhaps allow waivers under the circumstances? Because I see here your waiver process is only for rural population. What about for suburbs? Because like compost materials, if it's in agricultural industry and all those things, they can consume it so much more than for us here in a very much kind of urbanized environment. We cannot consume as much. So what is the formula there, and what are the options for Milpitas to still be compliant and not generate more waste by procuring what we don't need?
Yeah, so Vice Chair Cohen, that's a great question and a great observation. And this is one of the areas of the regulations where I'm glad we're not alone. So if you ask any other jurisdiction around us in California, we're all scratching our heads trying to figure out how we comply with this one. We have provided feedback back to Cal Recycle that their targets are very high, and that the markets aren't even ready. I think we're looking at there's a mixture, so we don't have to do it all. We don't have to buy all of the material in just compost. We can do some mixture of compost or mulch or energy generated from renewable natural gas or even renewable natural gas. We're talking to different partners and agencies about how we might meet this requirement with a different mix of materials. For example, we are talking with ABAG Power, which the city participates in their co-op. They actually buy natural gas for participating cities. We're talking with them. They're looking to see if they can buy renewable natural gas, which can help meet this requirement and wouldn't create additional waste. But yeah, one of the things we're seeing is even that process, the markets aren't quite there and ready to inject renewable natural gas, either from dairies or from landfills, into the natural gas infrastructure system. So there's still a lot of figuring out to do on this one, and being creative and seeing what we can do.
Do we need to involve the city council in terms of writing a letter or things like that, so that it strengthen the staff feedback to this agency?
good suggestion. I think when we bring this update to council later this year, we'll present this as an issue and get some direction on that. So again, we're still trying to figure it out. A lot of jurisdictions are. So I think there is at least power in a lot of jurisdictions trying to figure this one out.
Thank you. And thank you for all of you for being forward-looking and anticipating the issues right now. So thank you so much.
Can I get a little more of a, sorry, let's go back to that slide. I'm really confused about this slide. Can you tell me a little bit more? What do you mean by procurement? We are, SB 1383 requires us to.
They require the cities. So
Yes.
so basically it requires, the goal is, remember the goal is to divert this material from landfill. So it needs to go somewhere, right? So this organic waste, first it's, the first and highest best use is to divert anything that's edible to people who need food. That's easy.
Yes.
Second is if it doesn't, second is if it doesn't go to landfill, the organic material can be composted or turned into mulch or used to generate energy. And so what CalRecycle is trying to do is to spur these markets and spur companies to do something with this waste. So they have required cities to buy this material, the end product.
I will.
So do you see how the circle goes? It ban it from landfill, do something with it, create a market, require cities to buy this material so that it eventually, over years, the market becomes self-sustainable, but there needs to be some initial investment in that market. And so the way CalRecycle is going about it is requiring jurisdictions to buy some of this. Some of the material, we manage parks, we manage landscape. There is some amount of compost or mulch that we could use. The way that CalRecycle set this target based on population is way too high.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, we do a compost giveaway with Milpitas sanitation every year. And if we were looking at 2019 numbers, so that was pre-COVID, and so the numbers were pretty good. The amount of compost that was given away was only a little over 1% of what our procurement target was.
Okay.
And that was 2019. That was 2019, and that was hundreds of bags of compost. We had hundreds of residents come and pick up compost bags. So this infographic is really just to demonstrate how high this target they set was. It's not, we're not actually going to get to give away that much compost or buy it if we don't need it.
Just a couple of questions. My question here is, okay, who is setting that 174,000 compost bags? Is that CalRecycle or is that SB 1383?
So the easiest way to answer that is that CalRecycle set a target for all jurisdictions based upon population, and we took those target numbers and did some conversion calculations in order to figure out how much it will actually be in, I guess, real life tangible metrics.
Yes.
Okay, so there is no actual requirement here yet, right? Is that it?
No, SB 1383 is the law. CalRecycle is the state agency responsible for carrying out that law. In carrying out that law, they have established these targets for us and these requirements.
Again, where you need composting is out in the farms. So to actually mix, suburban and urban together is not going to work. You've got to get it out to the farms.
Yeah, and hopefully
we can renegotiate this.
And Commissioner Lingle and to Vice Chair Kong's earlier comment as well, that's where a lot of jurisdictional collaboration helps. If you think about Santa Clara as a whole, South Valley, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, kind of the southern part of Santa Clara County actually does have some agriculture. So we have been talking with county staff about whether or not there's opportunities to satisfy this requirement and, have them use the compost.
Okay.
So yeah, there's still a lot of creative thinking and collaboration even across Santa Clara County for this.
Good to hear. Good to hear. A couple more questions. Let's see. What is our jurisdiction? Is it just Milpitas?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean then that all of our trash is now required to go through weighing and this whole process as it goes out to the different recycling and compost and all that? That's all now.
It already
absolutely
is.
required.
It already is as a jurisdiction. So all of these facilities that handle our material already weigh it and account for it and attach it to a jurisdiction of origin. So
Got it.
already
Very nice,
happens.
very nice.
Not on
Okay.
an individual. Yeah, not on an individual. I'm not going to start weighing your trash or your organics, but
Well,
as a whole.
well, that's another question about this. When it comes, is there some kind of a quota of compost being expected by this bill from a jurisdiction?
No.
No.
Okay, good. Okay, good. That's all I got for now. Still trying to take it all in.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now we're in the home
Still have
stretch.
lots of opportunities in the
I
next
have
few years.
a question or comment.
Yes.
Methane, I heard that you said that the compost pickup or the compost that's distributed to Milpitas residents if they want it has been sort of on the low uptake side, but there is a limit of 2 bags per household.
Mhm.
And so, I understand that there are some households, if you live in an apartment, you probably don't have a need for 2 bags of compost. But there are homes that have yards that are large enough that they can make use of more than 2 bags. So, but they're limited to only 2 bags. So would it make sense to raise that limit so that larger, households that have larger yards can use more?
Yep, Chair Sexton, that's a great comment. I just want to clarify, our compost events are actually super popular, except for, we had a little hold on due to COVID, but we do actually have a compost giveaway coming up in October, and we have long lines for pickup. So it's not that that Methane comment that participation or interest is low. It's just that it's a small portion compared to how high these targets are that CalRecycle has set. But we'll look at whether or not we increase the giveaway opportunities as well.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, the event is on October 9th in the morning, just as long as we're talking about it.
Yes. And it's at KLA in the parking lot of KLA in Milpitas. Okay, so next steps. Next steps are we're currently out visiting the multifamily dwelling sites right now. They're the ones I mentioned earlier that the single family residences are already in compliance because of the split carts. So the focus will really be on businesses and also multifamily dwellings. So we're going out there to look at all the different sites to kind of see what potential issues there are and to make contact with the different owners, management companies, and things that are out there. The SB 1383 also requires that every jurisdiction adopts an enforcement ordinance by the end of the year. So we've been working on an ordinance for Milpitas based off of CalRecycle's model ordinance. So we're looking at that and any potential code changes for November 2021. We've also been looking at the city's procurement policy. to kind of update that and to incorporate a lot of our kind of standalone policies right now, such as, the bag ban or the single water plastic water bottle ban, to incorporate it all into one procurement policy. Targeted outreach. So we've already started the outreach actually for the ever since SB 1383, as outreach has been going out about AB 1826, which is the precursor to SB 1383. We've also been mentioning SB 1383, but we do plan to do targeted outreach just for SB 1383 starting this month. We've been reviewing Milpitas Sanitation's collateral that's going out, and I did put a note on there for Commissioner or Vice Chair Kong's comment about emphasizing that it's a state requirement. So we'll have that in there as well. We're working on a city website specifically for SB 1383 to talk about what the changes are, what that means to residents, what it means to businesses. We're planning to launch that by the end of the year. Record keeping enforcement software. We've been in talks with the software company to be able to track a lot of this information, all these documentation requirements, how we would be able to track what's going on and keep up to date so that we can report on it. And then to finalize process and procedures, internal process and procedures for things like enforcement, compliance. Alan mentioned waste characterization or route reviews. So all of those things, we're trying to work on the process and procedures for that and have that ready as well. Next slide. I think it's this last slide. So CalRecycle has a lot of information up on their website about SB 1383, but we're also here for any questions that you may have for SB 1383. Feel free to reach out to us with any comments or questions that you have in the future, and then also if you have any now.
Very good. I think I have only one more.
Okay.
Let's see. I participate in recycling and all four of those bins. The thing that I've noticed is that I throw away a lot of non-recyclable plastic. Mm-hmm. I send that straight to the landfill because there is no other place to put it. I'm disgusted about that. That's one of the worst problems I think we have. So tell me, what in this bill encourages companies to figure out how to recycle all plastics, not just those little guys with the signs on them, all of them? Is there anything?
You're going to be sad, Commissioner Lingle, because this bill does not address that. This bill just focuses on organics. There have been different bills in the past that try to promote the circular economy and require that all plastics produced and sold in California are recycled.
Indeed,
I
yes.
don't think any of those have passed yet.
Right.
So I hear your struggle. I think there are opportunities to encourage folks to purchase in a way that doesn't use plastics, right? They're actually, the market continues to develop. There are things like hair products, shampoos, conditioners that are now coming on the market that are wrapped in paper and not in plastic bottles. I think you're going to start seeing some of that, more of that, as the market develops.
Now you sent me an email that pointed me to somebody over in on the peninsula that actually did recycle all plastics. Is there a way to get them into our recycling program under this bill?
I believe that's a pilot program that San Jose is working. It's called like biosolation, where they're trying to decompose the plastic for something else. I don't remember, but okay. Yeah, I think a lot of these are still kind of, they're pilots.
Experimental. Sure.
Experimental, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a little bit that I can actually say to that because in my previous lifetime, I was actually in talks with the pilot company. Yeah, but yeah, it is still very much in the pilot phase. But because as right now, our recycling is mostly a mechanical and lightly chemical recycling process. This pilot company is looking at full chemical recycling and breaking it down to its base components and reforming it. And so depending on the feasibility and how that comes out, theoretically, and if it could be scaled up, then yes, as we could eventually get to the point where all plastics are legitimately recycled.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lingle, I have to say that I share your pain when it comes to putting plastics into to the landfill, and especially during COVID. You know, this just seems like there's been more plastic film or non-recyclable plastic that I'm getting. I try to recycle all of the plastic containers that have the recycle symbol on it to put that into the recycle bin. But I have been very upset at getting so much of the what looks like unrecyclable plastic film, particularly. Now, I did call Milpitas Sanitation this past week and confirmed with them that if you have plastic bags or any plastic film that has the recycling symbol on it, you can bag those into one plastic bag, tie it up, and put it into your recycling bin. Because the reason that single plastic bags or single pieces of plastic film can't be put into the recycling cart, it's that when it goes through the processing, it's very easy for that the little piece of plastic film to get blown up and cause, become litter, as well as it can get caught up in the machinery and cause a problem. But if you sort of bundle up your recyclable plastic film into one bag, and it weighs enough that it's not going to blow away. So maybe a half pound's worth of plastic film and plastic bags, then that will go into the recycle stream just fine.
Good to know. Thank you.
Are there
Councilmember Chua has her hand up.
Oh, yes. Councilmember Chua.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Good discussion, everyone. And yes, I learned a lot last Sunday from Alan. Alan was over at the farmer's market distributing those gadgets that hopefully minimize the use of water. So he was there, Linda and Tam. And I wanted to answer Commissioner Hogg's question. If they are employees of the city, they are. I can attest to that, because they're always at the neighborhood dumpster day, neighborhood cleanup day. Alan and Maven, I've seen all of them. Tam, Sandra, over.
I believe them. I believed them.
Yes, and I learned a lot from them. And I won those little organic bags. So, but those are good questions. We should test the commissioners one day and do those 10 questions. Anyway, my question is very basic. Maven, you mentioned that we are in compliance in terms of the disposed edible organic stuff, because we have the compartmentalized trash bin. Is that true?
For single family residences, yes.
My question is, I've seen the trucks, the garbage trucks, they just dump everything into one bin. So what's the point of separating them out if we're going to dump them in the same container in the truck? Have we asked them that?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that, because so the split carts, they also have split trucks. So that was one of the first questions that I asked them when I came on board, actually. And I went to Milpitas Sanitation. They showed me the split truck. So it's a split body truck, meaning that when the carts, I'm trying to show, when the carts get dumped over into the truck, it goes into different compartments. So there's a little divider there that splits it. There's actually a video on Milpitas Sanitation's website that shows you it in action, but it'll dump the items over and it will be divided to, food
Really?
scraps one side
It
and
doesn't
trash
look
the
like
other.
that. It doesn't look like that when they dump it. 'Cause
You
I
can't
don't-
tell when they dump it. If
Right.
you look, I'm sorry. If you look at the back of the truck, apologize, my mother's calling me. If you look at the back of the truck, you'll notice that there is like 2 separate compartments from the back view. But I'll also send out the link to the video because it's actually fun to watch the
Yes,
video as well.
Just like Commissioner Hug said, I believe you guys. I'm just wondering, it's like, what in the world? I separate them out and all goes through and they dump it into one container. So that's good. Okay.
That actually might be a really good point for us to include in our outreach too, to let
Yes.
people know. Yes.
And I heard that from other residents as well.
Mhm.
I'm not the only one. Good point. Yeah. Good for education. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for this tonight. Chair Sexton, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, Mevan and Alan, thank you so much for a really informative presentation. And I'm really glad to see that the edible waste that can be not put into the waste stream, but actually be diverted to people that are food insecure. That to me is just, the best use of it, as well as Elaine said, not buying more food or more perishable food than you actually can consume. And certainly over the last 5 years or so, my husband and I, we've really made a very conscious decision not to buy large packages of produce because it's only the 2 of us that is at home. And so there's no way that, buying a gigantic bag of oranges or apples or whatever, the both of us can use it up before it starts going bad. So we've taught ourselves to resist the sort of the mentality that I used to have, which is, oh, we need this, let's get lots of it. And so we've stopped doing that. And what that has allowed us to do is to, first of all, be able to buy higher quality. So even though we're buying less, we're buying higher quality and we're actually enjoying the food more. And I know that the nutritional content is also better. So there's a lot of advantages to that. Okay, well, thanks very much for the presentation. And going back to our agenda, I believe that was the only item that we had.
Chair Sexton, Commissioner Lingle has his hand raised.
Oh,
There we go.
sorry, I didn't see that. Thank you very much, Linda. Yes, Commissioner Lingle, your comment?
Commissioner Sexton, you reminded me of something though. Is there in the collection of the edible food coming out of restaurants and things like this, is that sold? Is there a market there, or is this just a regulation that is enforced to basically pick it up? Is there commerce there?
That's an interesting question, Commissioner Lingle. Right now, it's been mostly donated and brought out to, Second Harvest Food Bank, or and as Mevan said, kind of insecure neighborhoods.
Right.
So
Okay.
there has been an organization, for example, called Loaves and Fishes that has been collecting the packaged uneaten food from like the Googles and the Facebook cafeterias, and actually using a food truck to distribute that food out into needy communities. There's actually, it's so funny because I'm such a geek on some of these things. There's an app now and a company out of I don't know, out of the UK somewhere that's starting in to have an operations in the States. San Francisco, they started, and some others, I think Oakland as well, where it's an app that allows restaurants to, for example, bakeries at the end of the day to post some of their unsold breads and things to be sold at a discount. So they're starting, like I said, there's stuff being developed every day, right? So there are some markets where some of this unwanted or unsold food gets resold at a discount to people.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, and I think in some markets, it's pretty common that the last hour or half hour of the market, sometimes some of the sellers may discount some of what they're selling, just so that they don't have to, cart it back to and find another buyer for it. So I think that's definitely ways of offering up food either for free or at a discount is helpful. Okay, great. So let's close out our discussion of SB 1383, and now we're on to item number 10. Any city liaison reports? Councilmember Chua?
It's very brief. This Friday is Mexican Heritage Celebration, so please come. There's going to be mariachi, and it's this Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. over
And the
at
location?
Cesar Chavez Plaza in Milpitas.
Okay, by City Hall?
Right.
Great.
So that's one. And also, like Chair Sexton said, it's the Saturday is the Milpitas Cleanup Day or the World Cleanup Day. So please pick up your kit. It's starting tomorrow at the Milpitas Sports Center, and on Friday it will be at the Senior Center. So even if you don't use it this time, you can use it anytime. So don't tell Elaine.
And I can confirm that they have the kids. I dropped them off this morning.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Levan and Alan have been assembling kits this week as well as.
Okay, great. So please tell your neighbors, please, and your friends and relatives, and pick them up. So it's free, and you get a lot of goodies in the bag. Also, I don't know if everybody knows, Chair Sexton made some recommendation on a pilot project. So we kind of like hook up with SBCE with Elaine. So hopefully that's going. We don't know if it's, we're hoping to get some funding for this. So we're hoping this year or maybe next year. Have you guys met already with the CEO?
The meeting is scheduled for Monday. I think it just got
Yay.
scheduled.
Awesome. So we'll have some report hopefully next month. So that's a good thing. So it looks positive when I spoke to the CEO. That's why. So cross our fingers. Thank you guys. And I hope to see you Saturday.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Chua. Yes, I'll be doing my neighborhood pickup using the kits that I picked up, I think probably a year ago now. So it's still very useful, and I'm still using all of the stuff that was provided by Public Works. So thanks very much. And yes, I appreciate you talking with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and hopefully we will get some good results out of that and be able to come up with a project for the city of Milpitas to do a pilot project. So that would be great.
I wrote a long email praising you two. So we better get some funding. So,
thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts.
Okay.
We'll do our best.
Okay.
Any other reports from staff?
Chair
Commissioner.
Commissioner Hogg.
Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing.
Sorry, Elaine.
Yes, Commissioner Hogg, you have a question?
I'm sorry, I will be out of town this weekend. How do I get one of those kits for future use?
We can make one available for you for pickup at the Public Works building. I'll send you instructions and the address, Commissioner Hogg.
Thank you.
Great.
I don't think we have any new reports. We already covered, oh, Tony's got one.
Just good evening. Just wanted to make a quick announcement. We had come to this commission a while back talking about our energy and water savings program. We're reaching another milestone, breaking ground next month on the resiliency project that's going to be taking place at the community center and the senior center. So I know there's going to be a lot of visibility with that project there. We've been doing a lot of great work so far on other things, but that's going to be one of the projects that gets a lot of visibility. So I wanted to announce that here. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, that's solar plus backup battery storage for senior center and community center. And it's super exciting. Oh, and more EV charging stations.
Oh, is that the 700,000 grant that we got from SBCE?
Yes, yes, that's going towards part of that cost.
That's awesome. Great. Good news.
Great. Thanks very much, Tony. So I guess there'll be some social media information on that particular project coming out. Wonderful. I look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
That's actually a great reminder, Chair. Yeah, we'll talk to Angie. We can do some pardon our dust. Here's what we're building.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Fun stuff. Other than that, I think we already touched on it. We do have a compost giveaway that is October 9th in the morning over at KLA. Look for a lot of social media and information to come up, to start coming out on that. Residents have called it black gold and are super excited to pick it up. So if you've never picked up compost, please do so and you will enjoy it and use it in your garden or yard. And then for those of you who did not see it, the Valley Water did do a water conservation report in the Mercury News reported on that. Milpitas was the #3 in terms of water savings in the South Bay. Behind Stanford and Palo Alto, that's not too bad. So we're at 8%. We could do better, but we're doing pretty good. So keep it up.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that we're on the positive side and with water savings. And yes, hopefully we will be able to see more water savings. And
hopefully see more rain soon.
You know, rain would be good. I think November is normally the time when we start seeing a little the rainy season, and November can't come fast enough for me. So I will be in line to pick up my 2 bags of free compost, and I found that it makes really good mulch around my shrubs because that increases the water holding capacity, and I don't have to irrigate my shrubs as much when I have a nice thick, 2-inch layer of compost as a mulch around my shrubs. So, and over time, of course, it improves the soil quality over the years. So I always look forward to getting my 2 bags of compost from the city, as well as, of course, whenever my compost bins is ready to be harvested, then I add those to my garden as well. So, so those are all the reports, and that takes us to the end of our meeting. So seeing that we have no additional business on the agenda, I will call for adjournment of this particular meeting of the Energy and Environmental Sustainability Commission. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and time this evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Bye-bye now.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.